This is a classic story of oil, power, and politics. The United States has just announced a fresh round of sanctions targeting Iran's oil exports. The idea is very simple here: choke Iran's main source of money and force Tehran to back down on its nuclear program. Well, Washington and its allies believe that Iran is secretly building nuclear weapons, while Iran insists that its program is purely for peaceful energy needs. But here's the twist: not every country buying Iranian oil is being punished equally. On one side, countries like India, South Korea, Turkey, Japan, and even smaller players like Sri Lanka and Taiwan, well, they have been handed a waiver. This means that they will not face United States penalties, at least for now. Why? Because they have already reduced their imports of Iranian oil by a very significant margin. Now, by cutting purchases by around 15 to 22%, these countries showed Washington that they were playing ball. For example, let me tell you, India, which is the second largest buyer of Iranian oil after China, slashed its intake and opened the door for more imports from Saudi Arabia and Iraq instead. In return, the US promised not to block their banks from the American financial system. Now, on the other side, there is China, Iran's biggest consumer, buying nearly 20% of Tehran's total crude oil. Unlike others, Beijing has not received a waiver. This immediately raises the stake. If the US really enforced sanctions on Chinese banks and oil traders, it could actually trigger a serious diplomatic showdown. After all, the US and China are already locked in disputes over trade, technology, and even South China Sea. Now add Iranian oil to the list, and the fire gets hotter. But here's the catch: very few analysts believe that Washington will actually dare to slap real sanctions on China. Doing so would rattle global oil market and risk economic fallout at home, specifically in this particular year. So, why keep China hanging? Well, analysts suggest that it's partly political theater. By leaving Beijing exposed, the Trump administration could signal toughness on China. Now, back in Washington, Congress was already pushing for even harsher sanctions, and in the meantime, critics accused Trump of being really soft on Beijing. Now, by delaying a decision, the White House could show that it was keeping the pressure alive. Though for Iran, the sanctions are already hitting really hard. Its oil revenues have significantly fallen by over $10 billion, and that too just in 6 months. A massive blow to an economy already struggling with inflation and underemployment. And things could actually get worse here. In 2012, the European Union had separately announced that from July 1st, 2012, it would stop buying the Iranian crude oil entirely and even ban European insurance companies from covering ships carrying Iranian oil. But they actually executed this. That was the worry. Now, without insurance, many tankers couldn't sail, making it impossible for Iran to move its barrels, even if buyers actually existed. And that's how Iran's downfall started. And then there's diplomatic dance as well. While India and South Korea were cutting deals in Washington for waivers, Chinese officials took a different line. A spokesperson from Beijing said clearly that China opposes unilateral sanctions, meaning that it does not recognize America's right to dictate who buys oil from whom. Now, instead, China insists that Iran issue must be solved through negotiations, not economic barriers. Behind the scenes, reports suggest that Iran was delivering crude to China through ghost shipments. That means these kind of ships, they were not traceable. In the meantime, Washington suspected this, but proving it was just another matter. At the heart of all this drama lies a big question: how far can the US push without destabilizing oil markets? Oil prices were already high at that time, and Washington was wary of cutting a full 1 million barrels per day from global supply. Too sharp a squeeze could send prices sky high, risk a global slowdown, and even hurt American voters at the gas pump. So, the US has been trying to walk a very fine line: punish Iran, but not the global economy. And this is why the story is not just about Iran's nuclear program, it is about the balancing act between punishing Tehran managing relationship with allies like India and keeping the world's biggest consumer of Iranian oil, that is China we're talking about, under pressure but not completely alienated. In short, India gets the relief, China gets a warning, Iran loses billions, and the world watches all politics play out like a high stake chess game.